In today's video, I'm going to show you how to take iPhone footage like this and turn it into this without any editing involved. As you all know, I get super pumped anytime there is a progression to kind of the state of mobile filmmaking. So a number of days ago when Vadim, the founder and CEO of 𝗬𝗧𝗨𝗙𝗙, calls me up and is super excited to tell me about a recent software update they had, I too got excited, and we ended up on the phone for over an hour and a half just talking about all the technical jargon that went in to this software update and the years of trial, error, testing, development that went into it. So what I want to do today is compress that very long and technical conversation and simplify it down to a couple awesome new hacks to get much better footage from your iPhone. And in case you're wondering what the setup is today, yes, we have been using the iPhone 13 Pro Max inside the brand new Beast Cage for iPhone 13. 𝗬𝗧𝗨𝗙𝗙 tells me that the cage is coming very soon, so if you want to keep your eyes peeled for that, check out the link in the description below. I've actually got a whole detailed breakdown and review of this new cage and this whole setup coming in the next week or two. So if you're not already, make sure you get subscribed. So first up, we have a new feature in the Beastcam app called Stitch. This, for me, is one of those super underrated features that I've always been jealous of on my Android phones that I haven't really had on my iPhone. There's a lot of times where I'm filming my kids or filming some sequence that I would love to have kind of almost a montage at the end of it, but it's also not like professional work and I don't really want to sit there and edit it a bunch. Again, as a parent, I think most of us have like these days where we like go to the zoo or something and you end up with like 50 different clips all shot in the same area, but they're just like, oh, this kid's running over here and then, oh, they're right there and then going down the slide and then whatever it may be. Well, with Stitch, you can essentially hit record whatever you want. And then when you hit the record button again, it pauses. You can reframe, move, kind of hang out for a second, wait for the next thing to happen. As soon as it does, hit the record again, it's going to unpause and keep recording. And you basically can just keep pausing and recording as much as you want. And then when you're finally done to say, I'm finished, press and hold the shutter button and it will fully stop recording and save all of those different scenes as one clip. So now when you watch it back, and now you essentially have this finished movie right out of the gate without having to edit anything together. It is perfect for those casual moments that you want a bunch of different shots cut together without all the hassle of editing. Next up, 4K 60 in ProRes. And this is huge. ProRes was already an amazing feature that Apple released in this past year, but a lot of us love shooting 60 so that we can slow it down in post. It is perfect to get B-roll. And with this feature, you get all the flavors of ProRes, but he did tell me that in their extensive testing, that if you plan on shooting ProRes proxy, it's basically not worth it. For some kind of unknown reason, it actually looks way more compressed than the regular just H.265 mode, but you still have the ginormous sizes of the ProRes. However, if you're a nerd like me and want to squeeze every bit of detail and data rate out of this phone as possible, hit that ProRes HQ 4K 60 and you're gonna get up to 15 to 1800 megabits per second data speeds. Probably the most common question that any content creator gets is, oh, I want to do that too. What camera should I get? And it's features and updates like this that just prove that if you don't have the budget for big cameras and expensive lenses and all that stuff, just using any decent modern smartphone, you can do so much. So let's move on to the biggest feature that we talked the most about, and that is smart exposure. Now, I'll admit, When the app update first came out, I saw smart exposure and I'm just like, okay, I've seen different things like that before. I don't like when apps do things behind the scenes. I'm a professional. I want to set my ISO. I want to set my shutter speed. Don't tell me what to do, smartphone. That's how I felt. And well, I proceeded to get my mind blown on this phone call. Phone companies like Apple will always have somewhat control over the image that the phone will produce. In past videos, I've shown this where you can go into any professional video app, set your manual exposure, lock everything in, your ISO, your shutter speed, your white balance, all that stuff. But when you move the phone around, especially from light to dark and midtones and skin tones, you'll still see slight differences. And that is from the more recent past couple of years tone mapping features that Apple has come out with that developers straight up can't override to some extent. And so they spent the past 3 years developing this new smart exposure feature. Now the interface is insanely easy to use. When you first go into your settings, change from manual to smart exposure, you're going to see that your ISO and shutter speed are now locked. What's really nice is you can actually see the values still, you just can't manually adjust them. However, when you lock your exposure reticle, it will bring up a slider where you can over or under expose it by 8 stops. It looks very similar to the native camera app where you tap to focus or expose and then slide up and down to adjust the exposure. I like how simple it is, how close it is to the native app, but also the fact that it gives you actual numerical values so that you can remember it for different scenes, or it just allows my professional mind to be like, yes, I know what's actually happening. I'm underexposing by a stop. My shutter speed is this. I can still see all of the data. So that's how the smart exposure actually works. But how do you get a cleaner image? So when you open up your camera app and hit record, your phone is essentially analyzing that entire scene. Where are the shadows, where are the highlights, where are the midtones? And especially in a now HDR world, it's trying to achieve this best balance of contrast ratio between all three. But what happens a lot of the time in a high dynamic range scene, and what happens is you get a lot more noise, and not just noise, but really ugly color noise. And so what he taught me is, in order to get the cleanest image possible, what you want to do is, again, have smart exposure turned on and then zoom into the shadows so that it's taking up your entire screen and the highlight area is now kind of out of view for a moment. Lock your exposure on that and it's going to analyze that scene and only see what you know is the shadows, but what it thinks is the entire image. It's going to do all of its analysis in order to get the cleanest image possible for that area. And now when you zoom back out with that locked exposure, use that slider to manually kind of adjust back to a proper exposure. Your shadows are going to be so much cleaner. Blacks will look way more true black. You're gonna get a lot less noise. The only negative to this is in certain scenarios, you will lose out on some of that highlight retention. So he sent me one of their test videos and the difference just kind of blew my mind. You can just see how much cleaner the shadows are and images overall. But if we zoom into the softbox in the top left, you can see that it is slightly blown out, technically overexposed a bit. So you kind of just have to judge what you want more of in each scene and kind of do your own testing. And that's exactly what I did. I went outside, and if you have a very sunny day, then you want to expose for the ground. And then when you pan back up, slide around, kind of manually adjust to get a proper exposure, and you'll get a cleaner image, lower noise profile than if you were to just try to manually expose the entire thing. And if you look at the values of the ISO and shutter in smart exposure, somehow through whatever phone, Apple, Beast Cam magic, the values will look off, but it will still be a cleaner image. Now, one thing that does remain consistent with larger real cameras is the use of ND filters, especially in sunny scenarios. Using an ND filter along with smart exposure is going to give you the best final result. So what's great about smart exposure is no matter what format you want to shoot in, whether that's ProRes 4K 60 or just regular H.265, HDR, 10-bit, SDR, whatever you want. You can utilize this tip in order to get cleaner footage. Now, of course, I'll leave down in the description the link to the Beastcam app that you guys can check out. It's got a ton of other great features. They've really updated it a lot, from cinematic stabilization to being able to control which microphone and audio input is being used. And it's even got a great professional photo mode built in, so if you want kind of a 2-for-1 photo and video pro app, Beastcam's a great option. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Are you a fan of all these new features? Which one is your favorite? Huge thanks and shout out to the team at Beastscript for developing this amazing software update. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a like and get subscribed if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.